Good morning, everybody. Bruchim Abayim. Welcome. Welcome back to all of you and to myself. Someone is bringing. Thank you. Be'ezer Hashem Yisbarach. We're going to begin a new Maamar today, naturally, from Likkutei Torah Parshas Nitzavim, which is also on the theme of Rosh Hashanah. Generally, many of the Maamarim already, from the middle of Sefer Dvarim, focus on Rosh Hashanah, Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Tshuva, especially the last few weeks in Likkutei Torah. So this is a Maamar on Parshas Nitzavim, which is this week's Parsha. And the theme is Rosh, is very much connected to Rosh Hashanah, as we will see. So please turn to page 91. On top it should say Nitzavim. Likkutei Torah Nitzavim, page 91. The Maamar is Ki Karov elecha adav ma'od b'ficha u'b'lvavcha la'asaysa. The Maamar, this discourse, this Maamar was said by the Alter Rebbe, by the Baal HaTanya, on Shabbos Parshas Nitzavim, which was the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah. It's always the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, in the year Tovkuf Samach Gimel, which means 1803. So that's exactly 221 years ago, right? Tovkuf Samach Gimel, Tavresh Samach Gimel, Tavshin Samach Gimel, Ayin Gimel. Yeah, exactly 221 years ago, in the year Tovkuf Samach Gimel, the last Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah. The exact date was, I'm looking in the footnotes here, Shabbos Parshas Nitzavim Chav Gimel Elul, Tovkuf Samach Gimel, the 23rd of Elul, 1803, the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, which began 1804, Tovkuf Samach Daled, which would be exactly 200 years ago. 220 years ago, but this was 221 years ago. It focuses on a very famous pasuk. Everybody knows this pasuk. Ki Karov elecha adav ma'od. The Torah says, Moshe Rabbeinu speaking to the Jewish people in Parshas Nitzavim. Of course, this is the last days before his own passing. And he says, even if you don't know it from the Torah, you maybe know it from the song, Ki ha-mitzvah hazois asher nochi mitzav chayim loy nifleisi mimcha v'loy rechaikahi. This mitzvah that I am instructing you today, I'm commanding you today, loy nifleisi mimcha. It's not beyond you. It's not a wondrous phenomenon and reality that is completely aloof from you. It's not distant from you. It's not remote. This mitzvah is not wondrous and it's not remote. It's not in the heavens, loy b'shamayim hi, so that you would say, who's going to bring us up to heaven and take it for us and teach it to us? It's also not on the other side of the sea, so that you're going to say, who's going to go to the other side of the sea and bring it to us and teach it to us. Rather, and he finishes, Ki Karov elecha adav ma'od b'ficha u'b'lvavcha la'asaysa. This thing, this matter, this davar is close to you, and it's not only close to you, it's exceedingly close to you. It's Karov elecha adav ma'od, it's very close to you. B'ficha in your mouth, u'b'lvavcha in your heart, la'asaysa to do it. You may know that this pasuk, the Alter Rebbe used as the title page of the whole Tanya. His main sefer, the magnum opus, the Tanya, the title page is that it's based on this pasuk, Karov elecha adav ma'od, and the Tanya came to explain Levayir Heitev Eichu Karov Ma'od, how it's very close to you. But the whole theme, the entire Tanya is based on this pasuk, to explain this pasuk, Karov elecha adav ma'od, b'ficha u'b'lvavcha la'asaysa. Right after that, Moshe Rabbeinu says, see, I've given you today two paths, the path of life and good. There's also the path of death and negativity. There's Chayim and Tov, Mavis and Ra. And he says, I'm instructing you today to love Hashem. Asher nochi mitzav chayim lavas Hashem alakecha. And that's how he continues after Karov elecha adav ma'od. And then he says the famous words, Ubacharta b'chayim. You have two paths, but you should choose life, to love God and to follow and listen to His voice and to connect Him, Kihu chayecha, because He is your life. And that's basically the conclusion of Parshas Nitzavim, which has 40 psukim. It's one of the shortest portions. So this pasuk, Karov elach hadav amoy, this is the Maamar that the Rebbe chose to say that Shabbos, the Shabbos before Rosh Hashanah, Tovkov Samach Gimel. Now we'll see inside. Today's class is sponsored by our dear friend Reb Ezra David Philip, hoping that we all merit to celebrate Rosh Hashanah this year in Jerusalem with joy, with no trace of our enemies. Amen. With Mashiach Tzidkenu. Amen. Thank you, Reb Ezra David. Also, before we begin, I just want to announce that Hashem will continue the Maamar on Thursday morning. And Mitzvah Shabbos Slichus is going to be a Fabrengen. We'll have a Fabrengen 20 upstairs before Slichus, 10 o'clock. Everybody is invited. Tomorrow there's a shir for women. You could tell your wives or daughters or friends, wives or friends or relatives, 9:30. And we'll continue this Maamar Be'ez Hashem Thursday. So he says, to understand, there's a redundancy in Moshe Rabbeinu's language right before this. As I quoted, that's why I quoted the earlier verse, Ki ha-mitzvah hazois, this mitzvah, this is Parshas Nitzavim, Perik Lamed, Pasuk Yud Aleph, Deuteronomy chapter 30, verse 11. This mitzvah, lo nifleisi mimcha, which is from the word pella, it's not like removed from you, and it's not distant from you. He says it twice. Lo nifleisi mimcha, v'lo rechaike. Now, even if he would have said, Lo nifleisi v'lo rechaike mimcha, it still would be a question. What do you need two words when you could say one word? Even a good writer or speaker, you don't repeat a word, even with another adjective, unless it's necessary. You want to know why I do that constantly? It's a good question, but there's a reason for it. It's not without a reason, just know that. You have to have a good reason. And in writing, it's even more serious, because you're not supposed to repeat yourself. In speaking, there's an excuse. If the person didn't chap it, so you want to say it again in a different way, so they don't think you're saying the same thing, and it gives them the opportunity to hopefully understand it. But in writing, what's the excuse? Go back a sentence. That's in any writing. Certainly in Torah, and certainly in Torah Shebeksav, and certainly in Chumash, every word is so meticulous and precise. So even if he would have said, Lo nifleisi v'lo rechaike mimcha, it still would have been a question. You could have said, it's not distant from you, it's not nifleisi from you. We know what the words mean.
But it's not the same word.
It's not the same word. So obviously he's saying two things. Not only that, he interrupts him. He says, Lo nifleisi mimcha v'lo rechaike. He doesn't even put it in the same sentence. Lo nifleisi v'lo rechaike. It's not aloof and it's not distant. It's not aloof from you, and it's not distant. So you see clearly that he's talking about two completely separate things. So that's the understanding. What's the difference? It's a different word, but the theme seems the same. It's not removed from you. It's not aloof. It's not distant. It's not inaccessible. It's not unattainable. So that's what he says. So for this you have to know the words, what the words mean. Nifles, im sholoshen pelo gam kan loshen afrasha. The word nifles literally comes from the word pella. Pella is not an infrequent word in Tanakh. Pella means a wonder, like you have constantly nifloyas. Right? Nifloyas are from the word pella, which means wonders. You have lahafli. Yaakov tells the Malach tells Yaakov his name, V'hu Peli. It's a pella. A pella means something that's astonishing, astounding, wondrous. It also comes from the word hafrasha. Hafrasha means segregated, like hafrasha's chala, lahafresh chala. You separate the chala. Hafrasha, lahafresh. A parush is somebody who's segregated, right? Al tifresh min hatzibur, it says in Pirkei Avos. Don't separate from the community. So lahafresh, so pella is connected to hafrasha. Kamoi, you have in Parshas Emor, Perek of Beis Pasuk Chaf Aleph, lefalei neder. If somebody is lefalei neder, what's lefalei neder? V'tar gumoi, lefrasha. When you make a ned, v'chein pirishash sham lahafresh. What's lefalei neder? When a person, he says, when a person commits himself lefalei neder. What's lefalei neder? So Rashi says lahafresh. the person separates, because when you make a neder, you make a vow. Yeah, I'm not going to drink wine. I'm not going to eat this particular food. So I'm segregating this item from my life, or I'm segregating myself from this item. That's the difference between a neder and a shvuah. If you're creating a prohibition on the item, on the object, or on yourself. But in both of them, l'falei neder, when you make a neder, you're segregating it, you're quarantining it, you're separating it from you. The truth is, it's possible that the two interpretations in Pella is really the one nekuda. It's really the same thing. When you say that something is a Pella, meaning it's separated from you, so it's very similar to saying it's wondrous. When you say something is wondrous, it's like a Pella, it's like a Dvar Pella, it's a strange thing, means I don't get it, I don't comprehend it, I don't understand it. Einei musag kol kach. Einei musag, it's not attainable, I don't understand it. That's what he says. It's inyan hamachusa, it's covered, it's eclipsed, it's concealed. V'chein kasav b'sharashim. This is what he says also in the Sefer Sharashim. It's a very interesting book. It was written by the Radak, Rabbeinu David Kimchi. He was one of the Rishonim. He has a commentary on Tanakh called the Radak. He lived in the 13th century. So he has one of the first dictionaries in Lashon Kodesh. One of the first dictionaries is called Sefer HaSharashim, which literally means the book of roots. And he goes through a list of the basic words of Hebrew, and he explains the root of every word, and where it's found in the Tanakh. And this was a very innovative piece of work to be able to give the Jewish people access to the etymology of Hebrew, of Lashon Kodesh. So it's Sefer HaSharashim, the book of Sharashim, discussing the shirish, the root of every word. So that's what he's quoting here, Sefer HaSharashim, that I actually looked it up yesterday. Sefaria, I don't have Sefer HaSharashim in my house, at least I don't remember that I have it, but Sefaria has the Sefer HaSharashim online. So I looked, I just put in Sefer HaSharashim and it came up. I was excited. So I looked up Taka, I went to Pei and I went to Pella. So Taka says he brings all the psukim that Pella is wondrous. It's a Pella, it's wondrous, it's like insane, it's astounding, it's amazing, it's beyond. It's like beyond, right? That's the first thing, Pella, wonder. You can even say it's a Dvar Pella, it's a wondrous thing. And then he says, and it's similar to the other idea in Pella, which is l'falei neder, it's separated from you. So that's what the Alter Rebbe says, or Tzemach Tzedek says, it's a parenthesis, that the Sharashim connects the two. So the bottom line is, Nifles has two meanings. One is it's a Pella, it's wondrous, and one is it's segregated from you. And the two are connected. Of course, something that I can understand and fully comprehend and really get and internalize. So it's not separated from me, and it doesn't remain astounding. It becomes part of me, it's integrated. And that's what Nifles is. So when Moshe Rabbeinu says, Loi Niflesi, he's saying a Chiddush. You would think that this mitzvah is Nifles. It's both astounding and aloof and sublime and separated. I'm saying Loi Niflesi. And then afterwards he says something else, and that's Loi Rechaikahi. It's not distant. And that's completely a different inyan, as we'll see. Inyan, to explain all this, so he starts quoting a Zohar. Okay, good question. So what does he say? Yeah. But obviously he's trying to be, yeah. For Inyan, the explanation is, it says in Zohar, this is Zohar, I think, about Lois Chazor Chela Gimel, Dafayin Gimel. It's a very famous Zohar. Tlas Dargin Inun. Miskashron Dabeda. There are three dargin. Three dargin means three states or three levels that connect. Miskashron, from the word kesher, they tie, they connect, they bond with each other. They're intertwined with each other. Kutshebrichu v'iraisa v'Yisrael. It's the famous Zohar. When people use the expression Yisrael iraisa v'kutshebrichu kol echad, the Jew, Torah, and Hashem are one. So that expression itself doesn't say in Zohar, but apparently it's based on this Zohar. That expression is a famous expression. It's brought in a lot of sources, quoted from Zohar, but that expression we don't see in the Zohar. We haven't found it in the Zohar. But this is what it says in Zohar, and it's probably based on this, that there's three madregas, there's three states, there's three levels, and they're all connected to each other. They're like knotted, like a knot, miskashron. They're knotted with each other. Kutchabrichu is Hashem, Eraisa is the Torah. In Aramaic, Eraisa is Torah. And Yisrael is the Jew. V'chol chad, dargal darga. Sosim v'galia. Each one of them is dargal darga, meaning a madrega on a madrega, or a step on a step. Which means each one of them has two dimensions. Each one of them has two aspects, two madregas, so to speak, two states. One is sosim and one is galia. Sosim means that which is concealed. The word in Hebrew, sasosum, means like something is plugged or concealed. Is sosim. Galia, from the word gilui, legalois, is revealed. So when you talk about kutchabrichu, when you talk about Erais, when you talk about Yisrael, you could talk about two dimensions. You could talk about the Sosim, which is like the secret, that which is concealed. Or you could talk about the Galia, that which is more revealed. Revealed doesn't necessarily mean that everybody knows it and is aware of it. Sometimes you have to work for it. But Galia means an aspect that's more manifested, that's more expressed, and therefore more attainable. A person could integrate it. That's what the Zohar says. So the Zohar is saying here two things. First of all, there's three things that are deeply connected to each other. But each one itself has, you could speak about two aspects, the Sasim and the Gali. And these two aspects are going to be the theme of this Maamar. The Zohar just says Sasim and Gali without explaining. So you have it in Kutchabrichu, you have it in Eiraisa and Torah, and you have it in Yisrael. As we're going to see, Moshe Rabbeinu was addressing both of these aspects in the mitzvah hazais. So the Alter Rebbe explains this means that every one of them exists in a state we call soivev, and in a state we call mamala. Now the word soivev and mamala is also an expression from Zohar somewhere else. It says that Hashem is soivev kalalman and mamala kalalman. It's brought in so many Maamar, hundreds of Maamar. Soivev kalalman means surrounds the worlds. The word soivev from the word saviv. It surrounds the worlds, but we'll see what that means. It doesn't mean literally surrounds, it transcends. And mamale means it fills the worlds. And he says that's what the Zohar means, Sasim v'Galia. Galia is associated with mamale kalalman. Mamale, it fills. And Sasim is associated with soivev. And he explains, Mamale hu b'chinas halbasha v'hasaga. Mamale represents something that is halbasha. Halbasha from the word levush. It's manifested, it's enclosed. It comes in a way that it goes into a garment. It's in a levush. In other words, it dresses up in a way that it fits you, it suits you. It's more tangible, yeah. And hasaga means more comprehensible. Like lahasig, when you understand something, you masik something, you attain it. In Hebrew, when you say lahasig, ifshar lahasig, that means you can't attain it, you can't reach it. Musig means it's reachable, it's comprehensible. V'nikra galia, this is called galia, because since it comes down in a way that is tangible, more tangible and integrated, I should say more tangible, so it's called galia, revealed. Soivev is beyond das, beyond asaga. It's beyond what somebody could know and understand and comprehend. Its definition is that it has no definition. And he brings here also, we learned this actually not long ago. Parshas Veschanon, there's a Maamar v'yadaita yom v'shevayis levavecha. He explains the difference of das and emunah. I think we learned this also in Parshas B'Shalach, a Maamar on Vayaminu B'Hashem. Over there he also explains. The das and emunah, the word das relates more to Mamala Kalalman, where there's das, where there can be a much clearer understanding, and emunah relates more to the transcendence of Soivev. So when the Zohar says Kutchabrichu Sasim V'Galia, it means I could relate to Kutchabrichu, I could relate to Hashem on the level of Mamale or on the level of Soivev. But the person, there could be two ways of experiencing or relating. But here we see in Zohar, this is also in Torah. In Torah, you also have completely two different dimensions. They're really one, but in terms of experience and interpretation, it's two dimensions. One is the Galia of Torah, and one is the Sasim of Torah. The Galia of Torah is, again, that aspect of Torah that is extremely tangible and comes dressed up in terms and ideas and laws and words and sentences and concepts that are attainable, much more attainable, and the sasim is l'mayla me'asaga. It's beyond that level of comprehension. And now is the third aspect. And when you talk about a soul, neshamas Yisrael, the neshamas of Yisrael, the souls of Yisrael, you also have this. You have the aspect of a soul that's galia, that's more tangible and manifested, what he calls here halbasha v'hasaga, and you have the aspect that's sasim, more concealed. He brings references where all these things are explained more. Comes the Zohar and says, "V'Yisrael miskashron beiraisa." Now we said there's three knots, three things that connect to each other. They're knotted with each other. So he says, Yisrael miskashron beiraisa. This is now back to the Zohar. Yisrael connect to a Torah. Sha'asagas ha'Torah mulubeshes b'kol echad v'echad miYisrael. The hasaga, the comprehension of Torah, is enclosed in every single Jew. The pasuk says in Rosh, "V'zois lefanim b'Yisrael." It speaks there about kinyanim, the laws of acquisition and kinyan, but there's a deeper meaning. V'zois lefanim b'Yisrael ve'ein zois ala Torah. The Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, the beginning of Avodah Zarah, that it says "V'zois haTorah shesam Moshe lefnei bnei Yisrael." So when it says zois, it refers to Torah. So he says "V'zois lefanim b'Yisrael." So the Rebbe says "Sheimu lebeshes b'pnimius." The zois, which is Torah, as the Gemara says in Avodah Zarah, is lefanim, is enclosed in the panim, in the pnimius of every Jew. In other words, inside every Jew is embedded, is mulubeshes, the ability to comprehend, to understand Torah. And Torah is knotted with Hashem. Like the Zohar says elsewhere, Torah and Hashem are all one, they're completely one. I'm Parshas B'Shalach Daf Samach. This is Zohar, Parshas B'Shalach Daf Samach, where he says, This means Torah is the mamutza. It's the bridge. Mamutza is like the in-betweener, the intermediary, which links, which connects. Elakusa Yisbarach, his godliness with Neshamas Yisrael. So it's like the knot in the middle that connects the two knots in two ways. It connects Elakus, godliness, with the Neshamas Yisrael in two ways. On the level of Mamale and the level of Seviv. The Galia, the Yisrael, the Galia, the revealed aspect of the soul through Torah is knotted and interconnected and one with the Galia, with the revealed dimension, so to speak, of Hashem, which we call Mamala Kalam, that which fills the worlds. And the Pnimius of Neshamas Yisrael, the Sasim, the inner secret, so to speak, the transcendent infinity of it, connects through the Sasim of Torah to Seviv Kalalman. Because Torah also operates on these two frequencies. So there's like two different frequencies in souls in Torah, Kavayachal and in Elikos, in divinity. The way we relate to it, because Hashem Echad, but the way we experience it or relate to it. So here the Alter Rebbe reveals this truth, this secret. A secret, even when a real secret, even when you reveal it, it's still a secret. Secret doesn't. What makes it a secret is not that you don't know about it. It's even if you know about it, it's a secret. Usually what we call a secret is like nobody knows. The moment you know, it's not a secret. Here, when he talks about a secret, it's be'etzem a secret. You could talk about it, it's still a secret, When the Kohen Gadol spoke about the Holy of Holies, it was still a secret. It's be'etzem a secret. It's be'etzem sasim. It's not. The only way to relate to it is as a secret. It remains that, even if a lot of people talk about it. Pnimiyus HaTorah, or sasim of Torah, remains sasim even when it's revealed, because it's be'etzem an inyan of sasim. It's not how many people know about it. So there's literally two frequencies. So the frequency of Neshamas Yisrael, which is Galia, becomes one with the Maamar Kalalman of Hashem, which is his Galia. How? Through the frequency of Torah, which is the Galia of Torah, the revealed part of Torah. But then there's a whole different frequency, the Sasim of the Neshama, the Soiv of Kalalman of the Neshama, the secret of the soul, the innermost being of the soul, which is concealed, which connects and becomes one with the Sasim of Hashem, which is Soiv of Kalalman. Yes. Through the frequency of Sasim the Torah, because in Torah you have Sasim Galia. This is all explaining those brief words in the Zohar. They have three things, they're all connected, but each one exists as Sasim Galia.
What is it related to? Kedushin of Torah? Because you have Kiddush is the level of Seif, Kedushin becomes eventually the level of
So we'll explain what are these two aspects in Torah. But generally, this is what we call Nigla of Torah and Pnimius of Torah. Nigla the Torah, from the word Gilui, it's what he says, is called Galia. It's the Nigla of Torah. So it's not if it's written or not written. It could be written. Nigla Torah means the aspect of Torah that one can think they control. One can, so to speak, put into your hands. It's like, I got it. That's the aspect of Torah that's it's tangible, it's concrete. It could be very physical, very practical. It's feasible. You get it. Huh? Yeah. And generally, it's connected to the whole dimension of Torah that is halacha. Or pshat, let's call it pshat. Pshat, halacha. Like when you're learning chumash, yeah? You're learning a story, the literal meaning of the story, like you understand it, you get it, right? When a child learns chumash or an adult learns chumash, there's the galia of the story, like what the story is saying. The story of Yosef and his brothers, right? They didn't like him, they took him, they threw him into a pit, they sold him as a slave. And it's an amazing story, what we call pshat. That's the revealed part of the story. Or you open up a Mishnayos, right? You open up a Mishnayos. Any Mishnayos. You're learning, let's say, Baba Kama. So you'll have Arba, Nezikin, Ashur, V'Abor, V'Amava, V'Ahever. There's four prototypes of Nezikin, of how one person can cause damage to another person or their property. I could do it through my animal, I could do it through my pit, which is my hazard. I leave a suitcase in the airport and somebody trips on my suitcase. I could do it through me, right? I could break your glasses. I could do it through something uncontrollable in my domain, like a fire. So what's the pshat of it? The pshat of it is you're talking about civil relations and damages. If my ox or my dog goes and hurts your dog or your cat or your ox, how much do I pay? And am I liable? Am I not liable? And the same is true. You learn Masechta Brachas. It's over there. It's not about civil. It's about the bracha. The beginning. When do you start saying Shema in the evening? So this is all, every Mishnah or every Gemara, and then you'll have the reasons and you'll have the arguments and the debates and the sources and the explanations and this commentary, that commentary, and then you'll have the halacha, what you do. So this is all what we call Nigla the Torah. This is the entire, you would call the whole Torah literature from the beginning of time, when Torah was revealed all the way till now. The Nigla Torah is the aspect of Torah that is revealed, it's manifested, it's tangible. It's tell me what to do and I'll do it. It's what's learned in most of the yeshivas. Most of the schools, most of the yeshivas. But then you have what's called Sasim Deiraisa, Pnimius HaTorah. Pnimius HaTorah is, it's the same Torah, but you say it's the innermost, it's the soul of it. And it's much less, it's not tangible. It's not even about the tangible reality so much. I mean, it could be made more tangible, but be'etzim it's an inyan of Sasim. And that's the spiritual, the transcendent frequency of Torah. So you can have the same halacha, the same law, but explained on a soul level. Like the Rebbe says in one of the Maamar, everything we learn here is also learned in Gan Eden, but in Gan Eden they don't have a physical ox and a physical cow that's gored. So the shayr is a spiritual shayr, the parah is a spiritual parah. You're learning about leprosy in Gan Eden, they don't have physical leprosy. But every inyan, you have in Nigla and you have it also in Sasim. So Sasim has two aspects of it. First of all, it's every halacha, the way it exists on a metaphysical level, on a spiritual level, before it evolves into the physical, into the concrete. And it's the same halacha. It's just in a higher plane, in a more spiritual plane. So you can learn it the way it relates to the inner life of a person, not to the outer life of a person, to the inner life of a person. That's why it's a different frequency. And in addition to that, it's exploring the inner life of the universe. It's not just exploring the tangible thing of red lights, green lights, what to do, what not do. It's exploring the inner life, the inner soul of a person, the inner soul of the universe, the inner soul of God, the inner soul of Judaism, of Torah. Lahavdil, like you'll have it in the physical world. A person could look at the physical world and you could see what is revealed. Here I see a table, and here I see a tissue box, and here I see a tissue, and here I see coffee, and here I see water, and here I see a cup. And that's real, it's not fake. And here you see a tree, and here you see a squirrel, and here you see a car, and here you see a home. But everybody knows there's a whole inner world that is not so accessible to the eye. And for this you have disciplines. The whole world of physics, for example, that tries to understand what is underlying. What is underlying? What is underlying? But in that itself, you have the Galia and the Sasim. That itself, you have that which you could see with a microscope, and that which you can't even see with a microscope. So what you can see with a microscope is also more Galia, it's more revealed. So you have it also in the physical world, that which is more tangible and attainable, and that which is more concealed, and in that itself, you have deeper Sasim and deeper Sasim and deeper Sasim. Now the Sasim doesn't exist any less. In fact, the Sasim exists more, because that's really the underlying skeleton of it all. Like in a body. I could look at the body and I see a nose and I see ears and so forth. Before the world of X-rays came to the fore, which was only around a little more than a century ago, 120 years ago, 130 years ago, right? The whole inner world was unknown. Nobody knew what there's something called infections, germs, bacteria. You saw the outer body, and a good doctor somehow could have intuition of what that may mean and what that may not mean. And even today, with all the X-rays and MRIs, we still so much we don't know. But you have an example of the concept of Gali and the concept of Zasim. Now nobody's going to say what's happening inside doesn't matter because you don't see it. Everybody understands that the infection inside is far more significant than the scratch on the outside. You don't see it? That's exactly why you have to be scared. If you would see it, there's the Chahalbet Sarah. You could see it, you can gain some mastery over it. That which you don't see, God forbid the growth, the growth in the body that person doesn't see and doesn't access can wreak a havoc that they don't have any access to it. So that's in the negative. But the world of Sasim is not an insignificant world. That's the world that gives rise to the world of Galia. The whole world of Galia is what's called, the iceberg. You have the iceberg. Most of the iceberg is under the ocean. What you see on top is the tip of the iceberg. The tip of the iceberg is significant. But it's only the tip of an iceberg that goes deep, deep, deep down. I'm just giving different physical metaphors. They're not exactly metaphors to what he's saying, but to understand that Sasim doesn't mean, it's nothing. Sasim is the foundation of it all, the intimate foundation, which gives rise to the Galia. On the other hand, the Galia is what you could see, what you could relate to, what's tangible, and so forth. And that's going to be the theme here. So when you speak about Hashem, you have Mamali and Saiva. When you speak about Torah, you have Sasim and Galia, which is like Mamali and Saiva. And when you speak about Neshamas, you also have the same thing. And each one connects specifically to that frequency in the other one. Yisrael, Torah, to Kutcha B'richu. Each one Sasim and Galia. Yeah, because he says Tlaskish and he says 3 knots. It's a good question. He says 3 knots. L'chayr, it's only 2 knots. It's Yisrael to Torah and Torah to Hashem. So it says there's also a 3rd knot from it's a full circle from Hashem to Yisrael directly. So it's because the Zohar says Tlas Kishim is Kashran Dabida. L'chayr, it's only 2 knots, right? It's a Tlas Dargin. L'chayr, it's 2 because it's when you have 3 things connecting to each other, you have 2 knots. You don't have 3 knots, unless they're the 3rd knot that comes around full circle. It's not what he's discussing here, but that says in other Maamarim. Yeah, very, very good ha'ara. On the revelation of Sasim D'Oraisa, it wasn't simple. This is a struggle throughout the generations. Even today, there's some people who oppose learning Sasim D'Oraisa. It's not for us. You don't learn it. You have to be 40, then you learn Kabbalah, and even then, you have to know who you are. In fact, when the Alter Rebbe was in prison, In 1790, Tovkuf Nun Tes, after Sukkot, he was thrown into prison the day after Sukkot. So that's 1798. Tovkuf Nun Tes after Sukkot, 1798. It's talk about a pella, niflis. This is taka pella. The Alter Rebbe said later that he was visited in his chamber. It's in Petersburg. He was sent like to Alcatraz. Alcatraz is on an island, so nobody should run away. So they sent there the most heinous criminals, especially political prisoners who they accused fighting the Tsar. So they were very dangerous. So he was sent to like the Alcatraz in Petersburg, which was the capital of the Tsar. Huh? Petropolovskaya Krepst. It's like very. Yeah, I was there once. It's a fort. You could only get there through the water. And they still have you could see the place. I mean, it's not exactly the same structure, but later they used it for those who tried to overthrow the Tsar before the Bolshevik Revolution. It was used for serious criminals. Today you go there, they have a big picture of the Alter Rebbe. Yeah. I guess that's Rabbi Lazar's work or whoever was over there. I don't know, somebody's work over there. It's a big picture. When I went there, I'm like, it's not what it looked like in 1790. They didn't have a big picture of him. Huh? Right, in 1972 also not. Yeah. A few things changed in Russia. Not everything, but a few things changed in Russia. 200 years. A day after Sukkot, they took him, yeah. They took him in a black wagon, which meant that it's a capital crime, because he was accused of treason, of trying to overthrow the Tsar. But and he was there for 53 days, and he came out Yutas Kislev. That's the Chag HaGul of Yutas Kislev. But there's one thing I wanted to say. So the Alter Rebbe said later that he was visited by two people in prison, the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid. They were already, of course, in the next world. They came from the Olam Amas. And the Alter Rebbe said that he asked them why he's suffering so much. He was suffering terribly, even before he was in prison. He was persecuted horribly. He asked them, and why this happened. So the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid told him that there's a huge kitruk in heaven over the fact that he's revealing Sasim Deiraisa. That he's revealing the Pnimius HaTorah in the way that he's revealing it with such elaboration and expansion, and like Nigla. So there's a huge kitruk, there's a huge opposition in heaven, and the opposition in earth is just the Galia, it's just the tip of the iceberg. Yeah, it's just the Tsar is just, he's a puppet. He doesn't know what he's doing. He knows to oppose you, he's a puppet. It's just, he's responding to the energy. There's an energy of opposition in heaven. That's why you're here. So the Alter Rebbe asked the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid, if this is the case, I'll stop. I'm not trying to be a troublemaker. I'm trying to do the work of God. I'll stop. So the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid said, no way. No way. Not only should you not stop, when you come out, you should increase it much more. In other words, this has to be broken through. It's not, don't back off. At this point, you don't back off. You're doing the right thing. But it's creating tremendous opposition. It's not a simple thing what you're doing. There's a breakthrough that has to happen. But once you get out of here, it means that this was victorious in heaven. So then you do more. So it's true. After B'Yitas Kislev, the Alter Rebbe started to reveal Chassidus in a much more elaborate, profound way. They call it, the Rebbe Rashab called it Far Peterburg and Nach Peterburg. He would say there's the Maamarim before Peterburg and Nach Peterburg. Before Peterburg was one style, and after Peterburg was another one. So it's called Nach Peterburg, after he came out of Peterburg. Peterburg is Petersburg. In Yiddish they called it Peter. It was named for Peter the Great, who was one of the Tsars. So Sasim Deiraisa, yeah, its frequency, it's so profound. It's like it's the essence of everything. It's the spiritual science and physics and cosmology of the universe, of the souls, of the Torah, and Kivayachal of the Creator. So such a thing doesn't just come out easily. It's heavy. You don't just get access to Sevav Kalalman. It's not through cruise control. It took tremendous Mesiras Nefesh of him. Why? Because it was tapping into something that required a breakthrough on every level. And here you see why. You see what we're dealing with. So the Baal Shem Tov said, but once you did it, now you don't pay. You don't go backwards now. You go forwards. So it's not chas v'shalom a different Torah. It's like you have Nigla and you have Sasim. It's like two religions. God forbid. Sasim means it's the Sasim of the Galia. It's not two separate. You have one Torah and you have another Torah. Those who opposed it were accusing it. It's like you're making a new Judaism, but like the Sasim is the Sasim, just like in the soul. It's not like you have the Galia and you have a different soul. The Sasim is the inner frequency of the same soul. Just like the world. When you reveal the physics of a tree, it's not a different tree. It's what is the tree. You look at a body, when you're looking at the outside of the body, it's not different than the inside of the body. It's what's manifested on the outside. It's a manifestation of the Sasim. It's not a separate thing. It's not two things. We call it two things because language, we create that polarity, but essentially it's one. One is the way it's Sasim and one is the way it's Galia. So that's the answer to your question. So we're not just talking about chidushim that are deeper chidushim.
So metaphysics.
Yeah. Yeah. Beyond the physical and the tangible, yeah. And in that itself, as we said, there's one level of Galia, another level, and Sasim, etc. Different layers, depends on the context. In other words, what is in one world Sasim is in another place Galia. Right? And the Sasim there is much deeper. That depends already on the details. So he says, now come back to the pasuk. This is what Moshe Rabbeinu is saying. When he says loy nefleisim im chavaloi rechaike, he's talking about two separate things completely. V'zehu ki hamitzvah hazois loy nefleisi v'loy rechaike, and that's why he stops. He says loy nefleisi mimcha v'loy rechaike, and it's interesting. By nifleis he says mimcha. By rechaike he should also say mimcha loy rechaike. And even Avraham Fried, when he sings it, doesn't put in mimcha. That was just a joke. He sings what it says. He doesn't make up his own pasuk. Ki mitzvah hazois loy nefleisi mimcha v'loy rechaike. If you want to say mimcha the first time, say mimcha the second time. So you don't need mimcha the second time. So what do you need the first time? Or say it together. Loy nefleisi v'loy rechaike mimcha. Like I said before, much better. And why do you need two words? That's what he's saying. He's talking about two things. What is he saying? The Rebbe says, Ki loy nefleisi ritzoyne loymar she'einei mufresh mimcha klal. Dahainu shi b'bchinas mamale. The first thing I want to tell you is, it's b'chlal not separate from you. Loy nefleisi mimcha. It's not separate from you. Remember, nifleis means mufresh. It's not segregated from you. In other words, it's mamalish, a mislabish b'toich atzmus neshamas Yisrael. It's in your bones. Atzmus is from the word atzamais, your etzem. Etzem means like your essence. It's in your atzmus neshamas Yisrael. It's in the essence of neshamas Yisrael. It's not something separate. It's not something segregated. It's not something beyond. It's you. It's betoich atzmus. It comes into atzmus neshamas Yisrael. Everything I'm teaching you on mitzvah zois, don't think it's outside of you. It's segregated. It's like, whoa, I don't know what you're talking about. Here he's talking about mamale. You would think that it's nifles. In other words, if he wouldn't say loy nifles, you would think mamale, okay, it's a pella. When you say this is a peladik of art. People say in Yiddish, a peladik of art. What does it mean, a peladik of art? It doesn't mean I don't understand it. It means I understand something, but I still could feel that it's wow, like it's a wow. So that's mamale. Because mamale you have some hasaga, but you would think it's a pella. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, loy nifleisi mimcha. It's actually in your bones. It's in your DNA. It's who you are. It's mislabish b'toich atzmus neshamas Yisrael. It can't get closer to you. That's the first thing. But now comes a bigger chiddush. V'loy rechaikehi. What would be the opposite of rechaika? If it would be rechaika, it would mean it's distant. So he's saying it's not distant. This is P'chinas Soivav. She'ena melubeshes. It's taka not melubesh. It's taka not manifested within a structure because it's Soivav. It's pure infinity. Aval eina rechaika, but it's not distant. Shemeir derech makif. You have a relationship with it. It shines. It's bright. It's present, but in a way of what we call makif. Rechaika would mean it's far away. There's no relationship. So he's saying it's not rechaika But it's not mulubashas. It's mei derech makif. Derech makif means a relationship with Soviv is through makif. Makif means it's not limited. When you have pnimi means it comes in. It's integrated within a structure. That's what it's called pnimius. Like you own it. It goes into your parameters. Soviv doesn't go into parameters because if not, Soviv means it's completely transcendent. It's completely sasim. But it's not that it's not here. It's not that it's not present. It's not you have no relationship. The relationship is one of makif. But that's a relationship. Makif means literally surrounds, like makif. But surrounding it doesn't mean spatially, like it surrounds the cup. It means its relationship is in a way that it's not limited to the vessel and the vehicle. And therefore you don't understand it, but not that it's less here. The presence is through makif, through an infinite frequency. So therefore it relates to that part inside of you. So that's why it's not mimcha, yeah. Lo nifleisi mimcha. Because he wants to say it's not nifleisi mimcha, it's you. But lo rechaikahi, right? It's not in a pneumistic way that you could say mimcha. Because it's not integrated within the structure. It remains something above, but it's not rechaika. And those are the two things that he's saying. A phone call away. You have to get the right wires. You have to get the right wires to
side of the world, but it's you can get it quick, instantly.
Today with the internet, we can understand this more, right? You have a good marshal for it. This also explains, Moshe Rabbeinu says, what's hayoim? When it says hayoim in Chumash, it's significant. The mitzvah that I'm telling you today, the mitzvah that I'm telling you today, I want you, whenever you read this, to say it's today. Every day it should be like new. Because the Torah is something that's eternal. In other words, it's not that he wrote it thousands of years ago and now you're reading it and it may be relevant. No, it's like it was written today. When it says eternal, it doesn't only mean eternal, that you could still gain insight from it. That's not what he means by eternal. By eternal means every day is like the first day. Its relevance today is as potent as it was the first time. It's like this is the first day. And therefore, b'chol yoyim anu omrim hayoyim. It never gets old. Every day you could say, mitzvah shenoichi mitzavcha hayoyim today. V'chein, we say this in Kriya Shema. We say, v'hoyu advarim me'ela shenoichi mitzavcha hayoyim. What do you mean today? I'm reading Shema today. It wasn't commanded today. It was commanded more than 3,300 years ago. Shema was said in Parshas Veschanan. V'amru Razal sheyiyu beinecha kachadashim. Rashi brings it also. Chazal say it should be like new. The Maamar that starts in. The Gemara says in Erevin, it says at the end of Parshas Veschanan, Hayoim la'asoisam. Moshe Rabbeinu says at the end of Veschanan, I'm commanding you all the mitzvahs today to do. So the Gemara says, today is the action, tomorrow is the reward. What does that mean? The whole Olam Haza, till the tomorrow when you receive schar, it's all called Hayoim. The whole Hayoim la'asoisam, now is the time of action. What's this Hayoim? He says the whole Olam Haza, till the time of Olam Haba, when it's mostly about reward, is all called Hayoim. It's all called today. Now today is not just today, this 24 hours. The whole Olam Haza is called Ein Greisa Hayoim. It's all one big today, because it's eternal. What's the connection here? When a person understands all of this, the Soiv V'Mamala, you can understand what's the Hayoim. Rosh Hashanah, we say in Musaf, Zeh Hayoim Tchilas Masecha, Zikaron L'Yemnish. This is the day that's Tchilas Masecha, the beginning of your creation. Shekol Rosh Hashanah Nasu B'chinas Hayoim Mechadish V'nimshach Al Kol Hashanah. This means that Rosh Hashanah, we don't say every day Zeh Hayoim Tchilas Masecha. We say Rosh Hashanah. So this means every Rosh Hashanah, this concept of Hayoim is renewed. Zeh Hayoim Tchilas Masecha. Today is the beginning. And it's renewed for the entire year. And then the next Rosh Hashanah, you're going to say again, Zeh Hayoim Tchilas Masecha. So we said the whole Olam Haza is called Hayoim. But specifically, Rosh Hashanah, we say today is the beginning, and this beginning is going to go for a year, and then the next Rosh Hashanah again is the beginning. So when he says ha-mitzvah shenochi mitzavcha hayoim, and it means today, I'm giving it to you today, you have to really understand what happens on Rosh Hashanah. The Gemara says in Beitza, Adam nidin b'chol yom, a person is judged every day. If a person is judged every single day, so it's not only Rosh Hashanah. You say Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of the year. Every day is the beginning. Every day is a new ma'ase. You're judged every day. And then comes Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh is also called the head of the month, the beginning of the month. V'chein Shabbos, the Navi says, V'haya midei Chodesh b'chadshnu midei Shabbos b'Shabbatai. Yavei kol basar l'shtachvis. Every month and every Shabbos. So in many ways, Shabbos is the beginning, and Rosh Chodesh is the beginning, but Rosh Hashanah is the beginning. Zayam chilas masach. So what's the beginning? What's the hayam? For Inyan, the explanation is Shehu yizbarach lamayla mehazman. This is now a very deep piece in the mind. Hashem transcends time. We live in time. Everything is in time, right? I'm talking now, we're learning, we're sitting. Yeah, so, it's 8:49. It would be nice to stop the clock. They say the Alter Rebbe used to learn 6 hours a day with Rabbi Avraham HaMalach, the Maggid's son. He taught him Nigla and he taught him Kabbalah, 3 and 3 hours, when he came to his teacher, to the Maggid. The Maggid is son of Avraham HaMalach. So it was 3-3. So they say the Alter Rebbe used to move the clock back a few hours so that the learning should continue longer. But he had to move the clock back because the clock moves whether you like it or not. And then he said it says in Zohar, loy signov, after the loy there's a psik, there's an interruption. So the Zohar says you could read signov. What's signov? He says when it comes to Torah, steal from the time that you had to go to business and use it for Torah. So that's what he said. That was his heter. But we're confined by the concept of time. Everything exists in time, right? I'm not the same age that I was an hour ago, or I was a year ago, I was 10 years ago. Why? Every physical entity is affected by time. This table is getting older every moment. Just like the Sefer, just like everything else. Rabbeinu Bechaya has an expression, Hatinik mishenoilad maschilis yabish. When do we begin to die? When we're born. When does death begin? When does the process of death begin? When you're born. When does your copy machine start breaking? When you make the first copy. That's when it starts breaking. Hopefully it'll take a few years if you didn't buy Maamar Shashmat. You bought Maamar Shashmat, after 3 copies, you could call the Chever Kaddish. If you didn't buy a Shmat, it'll take a few years. But the first copy you make, that's the beginning. When does your computer start breaking? When you buy it. When it's manufactured. What does that mean? Because that's the definition. Because the tyranny of time, it's under time. And that means it's now older. With a second, with a minute, with an hour, with a day, with a week, with a month, with a year, with a decade, with a century. So the building is now older, the computer is older, the person is older, and that affects the physical process of everything. In Jewish philosophy, it's an expression, everything in this world is hoive v'nifsed. It was brought into existence, and therefore it deteriorates even if it takes time. The Roman Empire took 500 years. You see American culture was a blessed culture. They murdered God, and you see how that deteriorates every week. The shootings in the schools and the lies because a society that doesn't have any more Yiras Hashem starts crumbling from within because there's nothing true about it. When the moment truth doesn't matter in a society, it's a collapse of a society. What happened in Russia, with the Bolsheviks, Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem.
When do you want that happen in the U.S.?
Well, hopefully we're going to redeem it. We're going to redeem it by teaching the world Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach. But you could see, the moment there's no God, the word here is not God as G-O-D. The word is God as truth. This moment there's no truth. There's no realness. There's no authority. So biology doesn't mean anything. Science doesn't mean anything. Facts don't mean anything. Lies and truth become the same. That's what happened in communist Russia. That's what happened in Germany. The moment lies and truth become the same, there's no good, there's no evil, there's no bad, there's no good, there's no positive, there's no negative, there's no right, there's no wrong anymore. It's basically what I want at this moment. Civilization crumbles. You could see it now. It's very sophisticated people. Because with your brain, you could justify and explain anything. I once heard from Dennis Prager, he learned in Colombia. And he was walking out of a class. He said he didn't understand. You had here some of the wisest professors in the world, and they were defending the Soviet Union. The greatest defense of the Soviet Union, of communism, came from professors and intelligentsia here in America. There were people in the 1920s and 30s, they abandoned their American citizenship to move to Russia, to become Russian citizens, to go to Gan Eden. Of course, after a few months, they realized they were in the Shiva Maduri Gehenna, but it was too late because they lost their citizenship in America.
And went straight to gulags.
They went straight to the gulags, yeah. It was horrible stories. People who left everything to join the messianic euphoria of the Soviet Union under Lenin, Trotsky, and then, of course, Stalin. And they suffered horribly. I mean, it's a tragic, tragic story. But he wanted to know, how could professors in Columbia University, they're the smartest people, literally, really, real geniuses in terms of education, information, enlightenment, how can they defend a political system, where tens of millions of people were murdered in cold blood by its leader, Joseph Stalin, Yamach Shemar. Close to 50 million people. He killed more people than Hitler. And he couldn't understand this. How could they defend it? You could say, in theory, socialism and communism has some good parts. That you could say. We all understand that. Sharing, whatever it is. It sounds wonderful, you build a new one, but in reality, the suffering that it brought upon people is indescribable. As Churchill once said, capitalism is the unequal distribution of success. And it's unfair because it's unequal. Communism is the equal distribution of misery. Everybody gets it, infinitely. And then he said, and then he realized he studied in Yeshiva Flatbush as a kid. And he said a pasuk popped into his head as he was leaving the hall of the university, Columbia. Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem. The beginning of all wisdom is the fear of God. Looks like an innocent pasuk. Right? Looks like a simple pasuk. It's one of the deepest psukim. Reishis Chachma Yiras Hashem. The beginning of all intelligence and all wisdom is respect for God, which means respect that there's truth. Yesh balabayis libirazu. There's a truth. The moment you don't have that, the chachma can go crazy. You see it today. You see it even how the Secret Service respond to the 2 assassination attempts on Trump. The levels of lies. What is it? I'm telling you, this is a very deep, it's very simple, it's very deep. The moment you eliminate God completely, there's no truth anymore. You can't trust. It happened with Corona, with what happened during Corona. Medicine is supposed to be an objective, either you're healthy or you're not healthy. It's not philosophy. Either the doctor is being politically motivated or professionally motivated, right? Like biology, doctors are something people respected because the doctor is not God, but he's saying what he knows for medicine. That trust was lost. Why? Because even medicine, there's no... how did we get into this? I forgot.
Truth. Yeah, they got him.
Huh?
They got him. The reality.
So we live in Zman. We live in time. Everything is in time. Everything is affected by time. It's Hayvav and Nifsit. So he says like this. Hu yizbarach l'mayla mehazman. But we have to understand this. Truth, the beginning of truth, Hashem transcends time. He's l'mayla mehazman. What does it mean not to live in time? What does that look like? But hu yizbarach l'mayla mehazman. Lachein. Kol b'chinas zman shel sheishis bebereishis b'machshava achas nivra. So the whole zman which begins of the 6 days of creation. The 6 days of creation created not only matter, it created time. Time is a creation. Bereshis bara Elokim, I think the Vilna Gaon writes this, Bereshis bara Elokim, Hashem created Bereshis, he created the concept of beginning. Es hashamayim v'es haaretz. And then there is space and there's matter. Bereshis is time, Shamayim is space, Eretz is matter, earth matter. And the three work together. If you're going to have space and matter, it exists in time. Because time, it evolves in time. You have matter without space, where are you going to put the matter? So together, Bereshis, Bara Elokim, Es HaShamayim V'es Haaretz. So he says the whole Zman of Sheishis Bereshis was created with Machshava Achas. It's essentially a divine thought. Tzoifo Mabet Atzoif Kol HaDeiros. We say this in davening in Rosh Hashanah. He gazes and sees till the end of all the generations, B'skira V'harachas, with one scan. Today we know what a scan means. Skira, with one scan, with one ha'ara, with one glimmer of light, he captures the Zman of all the generations. It's one thought. The pasuk says, also we said in davening Rosh Hashanah, Vayatza kebarak chitzai. His arrow left him like a barak, like a lightning. A lightning is like an epiphany. It's like a barak comes out, it's like the arrow shoots out. You know, like you have a light bulb moment, like this lightning comes up and it shoots out this arrow. So he says the whole history is one such barak. It's a light, it's a ha'ara. Shehu b'derech skida v'ha'ara achas kol shivus imebereshis yemesa Mashiach utchiyas hameisa. All the 7 days of creation and everything that comes afterwards, and the days of Mashiach, and even the time of the resurrection of the dead. V'chein chamishim alafim yovelis. In Kabbalah you have a concept of 50,000 jubilees. You have the first 7,000 years, which is Shemitah. And then you have that 7 times, so it's 49,000. And then the 50,000 year is Yovelis, and then you have 50,000 Yovelis. So you can understand what type of expanse we're talking about. It's mind-boggling. Nun alafim Yovelis. So he says, but the truth is, giluyim va'aliyas be'ilui acharilu. These are revelations and ascending higher and higher and higher within the divine. Kulam nivru b'machshava achas. It's all one machshava. It's all created in one machshava. It's all zman. The divine itself, Hashem, is l'mayla min hazman. The whole zman is a machshava. It's a thought. And that thought, that ha'ara, that light encompasses all the time that we talk about. The 7 days of creation, history afterwards, so that's 6,000 years. And then you go Nun Alafim Yovelis, which is higher and higher and higher, more Giluyim. It's all in Zman, which is one Barak, which is one lightning, which is one Ara, which is one light.
It's interesting, the whole universe is a fabric of time, space, and matter. So it's,
yeah, that's the universe. The universe is the fabric of space, time, and matter. And it's interesting, they used to think in this time, that when the Alter Rebbe said that time is just a completely separate thing, and just everything is under time. Einstein spoke about the fact that time is a fourth dimension of physical reality. So everything has 3 dimensions. You have the length, you have the width, and you have the height. And then you also have the time. Time is an aspect of physicality, and that's why, in his theory of relativity, time is also relative, and it can actually change. It can expand, and it can contract based on the physical reality. When something is traveling like in the speed of light, 186,000 miles per second, he postulated that the time changes. Literally in a different physical reality, time is measured completely differently. It's not an objective reality. Stephen Hawking says that the Big Bang created time also. It's not just the Big Bang, the explosion of the Big Bang created matter. It's the beginning also of time and space. So when you're talking about creator, you're talking beyond time. So the whole structure of the universe, and he says everything that we know under time, it's really a machshava. It's an energy, it's like a frequency that God allowed himself to emit, literally like a thought. And that's the whole experience of time that we talk about when we talk about history and everything in it.
And it's definitely not the time, and it's not the space, and he's not the matter.
Yeah.
By definition,
People say, the kid always says, and who created Hashem? Who created Hashem? Well, the one that the source, who's the source of time, space, and matter, can't be in space, can't be matter, and can't be time. And that's why the whole question of who created God and where did he come from and why did he live before the world? Also the question, why was the world created when it was created? Why wasn't it created earlier? There was no earlier. Time is creation. Before there was a before, there was no before. Because it's before, there was a concept of before. We don't know. What do you mean? What do you mean there was no before? Of course there was a before. Yeah, but the truth is, before what? If there's no what, there's no before, because the before came with what? Time is a nivra also. It came with it's a product of creations, man. And he says it's all one machshava. That's why tzoifo mabit at tzoif kol hadoros. With one scan, he sees all of Zman. How do you do that? How do you see all of Zman with one scan? I don't even know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes.
he can make a phone call from one part of the universe to another.
So the answer is because the whole Zman is it's a dimension. It's a dimension. It's a ha'aret. It's one frequency. It's one energy. It's like a thought. It's a machshava.
There's a concept of a wormhole where basically you take any two spaces of the universe, put it together, and the connection is right there. So it's
The wormhole, you say.
you can bypass the space.
Right.
Our concept of hayayim,
Oh.
yeah, that's the hayayim.
So what's Hayoim? So that's what he's going to say. Kulam nivru b'machshava achas shu chayis klalos. It was all one divine thought, which is a general collective energy because it encompasses all of time. We say in the morning in Tehillim, he opens his hands and satiates gives every living creature ratz and desire. What's prat masbiyah l'chol chai? There's so many different levels of chai, what it means to live. The Pasuk says in Yeshaya, chai chai hu yoiducha, every living thing. Chai chai will thank you. Every world has a different frequency of life. But it's all one will, one simple, undefined will, which now is manifested in each world and each creature and each moment in its own unique way. But it's one ratzon. When this ratzon, when this desire evolved into words, into a divine word, nasa sara mamaris. Now suddenly it becomes 10 utterances. A metaphor from a person. The Pasuk says in the verse says in Job, from my flesh I will perceive God. And that's how the Rebbe always says, when you look at yourself, you could see it as a mirror of Hashem. That's why the study of self and self-awareness is always divine awareness. People's words can be divided into details and more details and more details. But all these words are often included and encompassed in a single machshava. For example, a person needs to make a presentation. A teacher, a scientist, or a yeshiva, whatever it is. And it's a subject. He has machshava. This is what I want to say. This is what I want to bring out. This is my point. How long is that machshava? Not even a sentence. It's a thought. But from that machshava, nobody's going to know anything. So now you have to say it. You have to build it. So you're building the premise and the foundation, and then you're explaining it, and then you're proving it, and then you're answering questions, and etc., etc. You're illustrating it. But it was all one machshava. We all know it in ourselves. Sometimes you have a thought. What did you just think about? Oh, it's going to take an hour to talk about. How did you do that so fast? It's not like the Diburim were not there. It was all there. All the details were there. But how were they there? They were there in an intangible, abstract way, which is one thought. Sometimes a person, the Mittler Rebbe, the son of the Alter Rebbe, he wrote a transcript of this Maamar. It's printed in Tovkov Samach Gimel, the Maamar, so he gives a metaphor over there. And it could be the Alter Rebbe said it when he said the Maamar. that this was written by his brother. There were different people that wrote the Maamar, so you sometimes have different editions. So the Mittler Rebbe writes over there, he says that a person imagines he wants to build a palace, like again, it's back to Petersburg, the Hermitage, these kings, they built palaces with hundreds of rooms. And there he writes, you want to build a palace with hundreds and thousands of rooms. How long did it take him to think of the plan? It's one thought. Like you imagine this amazing home, this amazing mansion, this amazing palace. You see the halls, you see the rooms, you see the foyers, you see the corridors, you see the bedrooms, you see the master bed, you see everything. You see the house on the outside, on the inside. It's one machshava. Now get that to execution. First of all, you have to hire a few thousand people. How long does it take to draw the plans or to share the plans? Hours, days, weeks, maybe more. Maybe months, maybe years. Even before execution, we're not even talking about execution, we're talking about the words. How long does it take this king or this builder or this visionary to articulate to all the people involved what his thought is? It could take hours and days and maybe months or years. In machshava, it was a split second. So this is even, you see it by a person. And we all have it. You're walking, you have a thought, boom. You're opening a new business, you're opening a new company, you're opening a new organization. How long will it take you to write it down, to articulate? It could take you a very long time. What happened? Why? It was a split second. You were walking in the street. But that's the nature of it. It was all there. But how was it there? It was there in a nekuda of klal. To get from klal to prat is a ganze avodah. Mikol shekein l'mayla kol hapratim nichlalim b'chayis klal yechad. This is even by a person who lives in time and lives in space and lives within limits. But you could see that transition. So certainly, l'mayla, when you're talking about the divine, all the pratim, and what do we mean all the pratim? All the pratim, all the details, in space, and in matter, and in time. It's all nichlal in one chayis klali, which is one ratz and one machshava. And then it evolves. First it goes into dibur, it becomes asara mamaris, 10 utterances. But 10 utterances is still not the universe. The asara mamaris further evolve. And every creature gets its energy, but it's all from the one machshava, which is one ratzon. And that's why he says it's essentially one scan, machshava, and that includes all of the zman, even Mashiach and Chiyas HaMesim and the 50,000 Yovlis. I want to learn mamash another 5 minutes. I know it's like I just want to finish like this nekuda that we started here. Now we'll understand what Rosh Hashanah is. It's a whole different inyan than what people imagine. The whole energy of every year, the whole year is accessed, it's communicated on Rosh Hashanah. Ki Adam nivra b'Rosh Hashanah. Adam was created Rosh Hashanah. V'ha'olam nivra b'chafei b'Elul. The world was created 5 days earlier, the 25th of Elul. And Adam was created the 6th day, Adam and Chava on Rosh Hashanah. U'b'yom vav nivra Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmuseinu. Says, let's make man in our image and our visage. This means Adam encompasses all the creations. It says, Hashem blew into his nostrils a soul of life. What it should say on everything, he blew in a soul of life. Into a horse, he also blew in a soul of life. And to a lioness too. And to an ant too. And to a tree too. And to a rock too. Everything needs to live. Everything has its atomic, molecular and atomic structures that are alive. But this means that Adam's neshama is koilel kol neshamas. Adam is the soul of life, and that soul encompasses the soul of everything, all the souls. So therefore, when Adam is created, and Adam, remember, is the nishmas chayim. It's like Adam is the DNA of creation. The soul of Adam includes the soul of the entire universe. That's why it says by him nishmas chayim. So every Rosh Hashanah there's a new combination. There's a new light that comes from that source. Remember that one single thought, which is called soiviv. That's why it's soiviv kalalm. And now we understand what soiviv kalalm. Soiviv kalalm means it surrounds all of history because it's one machshava. It's that energy, that frequency, v'yatsa kabara kchitza, the lightning, that includes everything that's soiviv. So every Rosh Hashanah, a new light from that source, a new tziruf, a new combination of energy comes out from that source for the entire year. V'chol shana v'shana hu tziruf l'chayis chadash. Every year is a new combination of a new type of flow. The energy of one year is completely different than the energy of the previous year. In other words, on Rosh Hashanah, new energy comes down that was never existed in the universe before, this flow, this tziruf. Remember, you have 22 letters. How many tzirufim do you have there? How many combinations can you make? Infinite. Even Aleph Beis, 2 letters, you can make Aleph Beis, Beis Aleph. 3 letters, you can make 6 combinations. It's fascinating. You have 5 letters, you can make 120 combinations. 6 letters, you can make, I think, 700 and... You're a mathematician. I think 720. Once you get to 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, you can't count anymore. It's very hard to count. So we said before, it starts with a ratzon, a machshava. But that machshava comes into Asara Maamaris. Every Rosh Hashanah there's a new tziruf of how that source energy, that soiviv, is being accessed into the world. Then it goes into details, which is 12 months. Every month gets its energy from that klal. Then every day is one detail from the month and gets the energy from the month. That's why Rosh Hashanah is called the head of the year. It's like the brain. There's no aspect in the body that's not receiving its energy from the brain. It's impossible. If it's in the body, it's in the brain. So Rosh Hashanah is like the central nervous system, so to speak, where the energy is communicated from the klal of creation, the beginning of creation, the soiv of the one machshava, but that's all klal. Now it's a certain tziruf is communicated for this year, and that's Rosh Hashanah. Then it divides into 12 parts. That's the 12 Rosh Chodeshim. Each month gets from its head, from its Rosh Chodesh, and then each day gets from that Rosh. So that's the 30 days, or the 29 days. This is the deeper meaning the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah Daf Ches, Ezu Chag Shach Chodesh Miskasa B'Hu Rosh Hashanah. It's an extraordinary interpretation. The Gemara says like this, it says in Tehillim, Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar B'Kesel L'Yom Chagenu. Blow shofar on the month, doesn't say which month, when the day of our holiday is concealed. B'Kesel L'Yom Chagenu. Doesn't say which month, it just says blow shofar b'chodesh. So the Gemara says, which month, which holiday is the month concealed? Chodesh, the only one holiday, Rosh Hashanah. All the other holidays are the 12th, or the 15th day of the month. The moon, the Chodesh, is not concealed. It's revealed. Even Yom Kippur, it's the 10th day. The only holiday where you don't see the moon is Rosh Hashanah. Because we know Rosh Chodesh, you never see the moon. Because the moon finishes its orbit, it's now facing the sun. That's called the birth, the moilad. You can't see the moon, because when we're looking at the moon, the part of the moon that we see is opposite the sun. It's the half of the ball that's facing away from the sun, so we can't see it. And then it starts moving. That's the moilad, that's the beginning. And then it starts moving away a little bit. So a few hours later, you see a little sliver because it moves away, you see a drop. And then with each day, it moves further away from the sun, so you see more and more. 15th of the month, it's in between, the earth is in between the sun and the moon, so you could see the whole moon. Half of the moon, because we only see half, it's a ball. So, Ezo Chag Shach Chodesh Miskasa Boy, which is the holiday that the Chodesh, Rosh Chodesh, Chodesh is the new moon, is Miskasa Boy, it's Rosh Hashanah. That's how you know Tiku B'Chodesh Shofar is when? Rosh Hashanah, which is the only holiday on the first day of the month. All other holidays are not on the first day of the month. So the Chodesh is not Miskas. So literally, it's a cute technical vart. Like David HaMelech didn't want to give us too many words, so instead of saying Tiku b'Chodesh Hashvi Shofar, which would have been fine, it says Tiku b'Chodesh Shofar when B'Kesel L'Yom Chagenu. The Chagenu when the Chodesh is B'Kesel. Kesef from the word Kisui, it's concealed. So it's a geschmack of pshat in Gemara, no question. It's how Chazal understood the psukim, right? So that's the Galia. What's the Pnimi Satayra? Now it's the Sasim. What's David HaMelech really saying? So he's saying he's not trying to be cute with words and not tell you so you can figure it out so we have what to do a whole day in yeshiva. If everything would be clear, what would everybody do a whole day? Everything would be clear. So Baruch Hashem, nothing is clear, so we could sit for thousands of years and kvetch. So that's also good because it keeps people out of trouble. They're learning good things, they're sharpening their mind, they're learning divine wisdom. It's Kedushas HaTorah. But every such limud in Gemara is full of pnimius. It's not stam, it's not just write it clearly, David HaMelech. Like, actually, it's not from David. It's Asaf. So we can't blame David, we have to blame Asaf, who was one of the sons of Korach. It's the Shir Shel Yom of Chamishi, Thursday. Harninu le'elekimu zeinu, tiku b'chodesh sheva b'kesel le'yem chageinu, ki choik li'yisrael u'mishpat. So the Rebbe says a hafla de kavart. It's this is like, you see straight that this is like boom. It's like from the source. He says, "V'lechein amrazal ezer chaych miskasa by hu Rosh Hashanah, shehu ha'makar ha'koilo." Rosh Hashanah is the makar, it's the source that encompasses everything, the whole year. L'chein ha'adas ha'chodesh misbatel by. So the ray of the month is subsumed in Rosh Hashanah. It's misbatel by. It's nullified, it's subsumed like bittel. It's misbatel. The ray of the month is misbatel. It's completely subsumed in the light of Rosh Hashanah. Kebittel ziv hashemesh b'shemesh. Like the ray of the sun when it's in the solar core. The ray of the sun is only potent, conspicuous, powerful, manifested once it leaves the solar core. We look at the rays of the sun and we enjoy the vitamin D and the heat and the energy and the growth and the light, the brightness, the luminescence. When it's in the solar core, it's also there. Much more powerful. But what is it? It's a shemesh. You don't talk, oh, I see a ray of the sun inside the sun. You don't see a ray of the sun inside the sun. That's pshat. The whole inyan of Rosh Chodesh is what? It's a ray of Rosh Hashanah. So when Rosh Chodesh is in Rosh Hashanah, Eizo Chag Shachodesh Miskasabah, which is the holiday that the Chodesh is Miskasabah, the whole Eid of Rosh Chodesh is batal, it's misbatal in Rosh Hashanah. It's this inyan, and that's why you blow shofar. It's not, David HaMelech is not saying, okay, he's explaining why you're blowing shofar in Rosh Hashanah. We're going to see later, because you have to access the source. That's what the shofar does. So he's explaining. Usually Rosh Chodesh is, wow, Rosh Chodesh is the head of the month. And we know what a brain is. You know what a head is. It's the head of the month. It's the spiritual nervous system of the entire month. All the 30 days are like branches from this root, from this head. That's Rosh Chodesh, a regular Rosh Chodesh. When Rosh Chodesh meets Rosh Hashanah is the Ha'ara HaKoila. Remember, Rosh Hashanah is the frequency of energy that comes back to the source, the Machshava Achas. In the beginning of creation, the Seviv Kalama that includes everything. All of Zman. Hashem is beyond time. So this is all one Nekuda, and there's a Nutzirov, but from there you have to get to the Pratim, to the world that we know which exists in time. So every year the Hamshacha, the access, the flow is on Rosh Hashanah. Eizo Chag Shachodesh Miskasaba. So usually Rosh Chodesh has its own independent property, because it's Rosh Chodesh Cheshvan, Rosh Chodesh Kislev, Rosh Chodesh Tevet, Rosh Chodesh Shvat. And that's why there's a special avodah in Rosh Chodesh. But when it comes to Rosh Hashanah, HaChodesh Miskasa. It's not there, it's just concealed, Miskasa. Miskasa is not just physically you don't see the moon. The energy of the Chodesh is Miskasa. It's concealed because it's the ray of the sun inside the sun. It's like all the words about the house that you want to build, but it's still in the thought. You don't see the words. When the teacher has that thought of what he wants to share, that thought has all the words in it. But where are the words? They're just concealed. They're subsumed. It's like the light of the sun in the sun. The sun doesn't need the ray of the sun. It has the sun. In the source, the ray of the sun is there. But it's just part of the whole source. It's part of the infinite source. So that's the inyan of Eizo Chag Chodesh Miskasaba. K'maimer, this is what we say, Baruch Sha'amar v'haya olam. Hu chayis klali l'chal olam. Blessed is he who spoke and the world came into existence. One Amar? Yeah, one Amar. The whole Olam is one Amar. V'zeh Shamar Razal, it says in Pirkei Avos, V'alei b'maimer echad hayayachal li'baris shu achayis klali. With one utterance, he could have created everything. The whole creation is maimer echad, it's one utterance. That's the machshava achas. We spoke about the one thought, and here we're talking about one word that includes everything. And then there's Baruch Oime v'oisu aprat shu tziruv chadash l'chal yayim. Then there's Baruch, Omer, Va'isa, that's the specific flow. Every day has a different combination of energy, because every day is a different energy. All from Rosh Hashanah. The life force of this year is not the life force of last year, because there was a Rosh Hashanah in between. That's why only on Rosh Hashanah he says, this is the beginning of creation. It's not the beginning of creation. Rosh Hashanah is going to be 5,785 years. It's a lot of time. It's not the beginning. It's not Tchilas Masecha. What's this joke? Why are you saying it's Tchilas Masecha? You could say we're remembering Tchilas Masecha. He says, no, we're not remembering. It's Tchilas Masecha. What do you mean Tchilas Masecha? The same thing that happened the first Rosh Hashanah happens every Rosh Hashanah. That's the first container of the collective energy, the way it's accessed into the source for the entire year. And then the next Rosh Hashanah is going to be a new flow. So that's like the bridge between the ultimate klal and the ultimate prat. The ultimate klal is the one machshava, the one ratzon, which is slave of kalalman, which includes all of history with one scan. That's the moment of creation. But then when Adam was created, that was the first hamshacha, the first flow from the klal into a prat, which includes the year. And then every year, it's zehayom tchilas masecha. And then from there, it's going to go into 12 months. And each month is going to trickle it down to each day. And each day has a specific tziruf, a specific energy that the other day doesn't have. That's why you can't say today was yesterday. Today is not yesterday. Today is today. To be alive means to tune in to the energy now, because it's a different flow. Every moment, that's what every moment is a new energy, literally. Every day is a new energy, every month is a new energy, every year is a new energy. And this energy never existed before. It existed in the cloud, but not in a manifested way, the way it comes into prat. Yeah. Yeah. So just like you have neurology in a body, you have neurology in time. Just like you have neurology in space, right? In your body, you have the neurological dimension. You have neurological time. So Rosh Hashanah is that ultimate neurological time of that energy coming from that klal, from the soiviv, the one machshava, into a tziruf that's ultimately going to be manifested throughout all the days of the year in its unique combination. And then the next Rosh Hashanah is Ayam Tchilas Masecha. So the energy of the previous year goes up, so to speak, every Rosh Hashanah by mincha time. And then Rosh Hashanah, especially in the morning, by after Tkiyas, during Tkiyas, the new chiyus of the year comes out down. What's the new chiyus? He says, he's be'etzim beyond time. So there's no time. And that's why all of time is condensed and compressed in one nekuda. So that flow from Lamaila Mehazman to Zman, from beyond time to time, what's the interface, that's a good word. The interface between Lamaila Mehazman and Zman is Rosh Hashanah. And that's why Adam was created, and because Adam includes the soul of existence. That's why we say the whole world exists in a person. A person is a miniature universe. And that's why Adam gave a name to every animal, because Adam is connected to every creature. Right? The human being is the crown of creation. We're responsible for creation because we touch the soul of creation. It's like you're the DNA of creation. So that day, Adam becomes the interface, the sixth day of creation, between the Lamaila Mehazman and the Zman. Even the first 6 days before Adam was created, it was with the purpose of creating Adam. So it was a preparation for Adam. So the nishmas of Adam includes everything, even before he actually created Adam. And that happens every Rosh Hashanah. So that's the Hayom, the day, today. The Hayom is today. So it's not a contradiction. A person is judged every day. That's true, because there's a unique hamshacha. Every day is accessing that source. It's like in the brain, you can have all the energy, but to get it from the brain to that particular limb, that's an avodah. You know, sometimes something could be in the brain very clearly, but unfortunately, there's a lack of connection with the limb. Right, today you see in science, neurology, and neuroscience, they have this concept that sometimes a limb is deteriorated, or it's blemished, or it's not functional anymore. Right, so the person can't hear, or can't see, or can't use certain motor skills. and they'll implant something, right? They'll implant, but in the brain it's fine. In the brain it may be fine. It's just not accessing that limb. So you need a new hamshacha from the brain for the person to be able to access it. So every day there's a Adam Nidim B'chal Yom. But it's all based on Rosh Hashanah, Zayim Tchilas Masecha, because that's when you have a new flow, a new tziruf, a new combination, the interface from beyond time into the world of time, into the world of Zaman. So Zayim Tchilas Masecha. Why is this so negeya? Fine, so God knows what He's doing. So we're going to see later in the Maamar that the whole avodah of Rosh Hashanah is connected to this inyan. That's the... The avodah of Rosh Hashanah is to go to the soiviv, to the sasim of the neshama, the sasim of Torah, the sasim of Kodesh Baruch Hu. That's the soiviv, because that's where everything comes from. And it's also true in a person, going to your own sasim, not only to your own gali. We'll see. We're going to continue Be'ezer Hashem Thursday morning.
You can't access a little bit of the soul.
So that's a big chiddush of Moshe. Moshe is saying, don't think this is not connected to you. You could think all this is fine. I don't know, you're talking about some spiritual cosmology, good luck. You want to have a good time with this? Fine. I have more important things to do in life. If somebody got to make a living. So he's saying, ha-mitzvah says, Lo nefleisi mimcha v'lo rechaikehi. Don't look at mamala kalalman that it's beyond you, it's you. And don't look at soiviv that it's distant from you, it's also you. It's also you. And that's how he starts, We're the interface. Adam Rishon is Rosh Hashanah. Zayom Tchilas Masecha. We're the interface. And that's why he starts explaining what Hayom is. And that's why he says here, it's all about today. Because the whole process of today is that the Torah is eternal. It's every single day. Chadash mamish. The whole Olam Haza is one big Hayom. But what does it mean? How does it become today? It's not today. It was given to me thousands of years ago. When you don't understand how energy works, you could think it was thousands of years ago. When you know how energy works, there's no such a thing as thousands of years ago. It's today. If not, you're not in touch with the flow. Somebody says, "What Torah is not today. It's old." Maybe you'll daven with a new chayis, fine, because you don't want to be bored. No, it's all hayom. It's happening all hayom. If you're in touch with what happened thousands of years ago, you're not in touch with the energy. You're in touch with a picture of energy. The Rebbe had once a chassid. There's two types of Jews. A Jew who's a portrait on the wall. There's a Jew who's alive. A portrait, your portrait on the dining room is usually, hopefully, it's a beautiful portrait. And it never changes. It's called a portrait. It never changes. Right? It's a beautiful picture or a painting. It's gewaldig and it stays there for 25 years. It's beautiful. It's consistent. And the guy is never in a bad mood. There's only one issue. He's dead. So you have a person, a Jew, is like a portrait. Everything is the same every day. But it's essentially not alive. Hayom is telling you, it's all today. It's all today. It's a haint. It's mamish today. Hashem said the world is recreated every day, every moment. And every moment. What does it mean? It's not cute fantasy, philosophy, make people excited. It's the energy. It's the truth. If I'm not tuning in to now, I'm not living. I created a portrait in my mind, and that's what I'm clinging to. I brushed my teeth yesterday, I brushed my teeth today. I put on tefillin yesterday, I put on tefillin today. I davened mincha yesterday, I'll daven mincha today. The body knows better. The body doesn't say, I breathed yesterday, it's fine. I'll use the breaths of yesterday for today. You don't use the breaths of yesterday, no such a thing. You inhale and you exhale. You have to inhale a new chayas. You have to exhale the chayas. You have to inhale a new chayas. Hey, but I did it yesterday. Let's bring back the breath. There's no such a thing. Sorry, the breath is gone. So that's what alive. That's the hayom. The hayom is when you're in touch with this whole inyan that he said. So every Rosh Hashanah is completely new. Every Rosh Chodesh is completely new. But every day is completely new. Every minute is fresh. Every moment. It's every millisecond. It's not even a minute. It's a constant flow. It's one of the hardest things for people to be fully present. Because our mind likes to live in the past, in the future, control, tell stories, to be fully present in the chayas of now. The most important place you're ever going to be is the place you're in right now. The most important moment you will ever experience is this moment. The most important and interesting person you will ever meet in your life is the person you're talking to right now. I'm sorry. But that's what life means. The moment this person is not the most interesting person I'm talking to in my life, it means I'm not alive. Now you tell me, Rabbi, why? Well, you don't know the people that I meet during the day. They're pretty boring. I get it. That's what it means to be alive. Okay, so everybody have a beautiful day. Now that we know what a day is, have a beautiful day and a meaningful day. As the mystics used to say, carpe diem, seize the day. In Latin, there's an expression, carpe diem, seize the day. Hayoim, seize the day. Suck the marrow out of life and seize the day. Not the mystics, the poets.